The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Friday, the 7th day of November, 2025. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. I'm Jamal Hartman, and Teo Dill will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in the news break brought to you by People's. Happy Friday to everyone. How's everyone feeling today? Hopefully you've made it healthily and happily through the traditional work week and are geared up to do whatever your heart desires on the weekend. All right. You know whose favorite day of the week it is. I'm not calling any names, but you know. So, oh, by the way, I'm gonna tell her business. You know, she's going on a cruise this weekend. Yeah. Can't show up to work, but you always are, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, pleasure to have you all. Honestly, it's a pleasure to have you all with us today. And Suzanne Ingham says, it's a super awesome Sherry day. Thank God it's been a bumpy week for me. Well, I hope that it smooths over for you on this last day of the traditional work week, Suzanne, and that you are able to have an even smoother weekend. Miss Alan Kate Horton says, good morning and happy Friday. And a good morning and a happy Friday to you, Miss Horton. All right. Well, greetings, everyone. And thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Dr. Gina Spence Virgil on. We're going to be discussing the work she's doing to assist families and children impacted by the violence in Bermuda. The daily play is going to be things you should know. All right. So really good one. And folks, this is the final day, if you haven't already, to do our survey. Only one entry. You'll only count once, but the final day to do our survey. So if you have not done our survey, please get it done. And while you're on our website, don't forget to subscribe on our website and follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. All righty. Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, good morning to the H family. Morning to you, Mark. Well, let's jump right into it. It's Friday Fun Day, brought to you by our friends at Mailboxes, and this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. And the question of the morning, we're having fun today, right? So we're going to be speaking positively about politicians. Yes, that's possible. And here's your Friday Fun Day. Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past and present? And let's break down effective real quickly so that it doesn't come across as subjective. So politics often spark strong feelings, right? But effectiveness isn't always about popularity, right? It's really not always about popularity. Some politicians win hearts, others move mountains behind the scenes. So when what we're asking today is, who actually, in your opinion, got things done for Bermuda? Whether it's leadership, vision, plain hard work, who made a lasting impact? What politician comes to mind? So effective. What we're trying to determine here. Think of that, the passing of major legislation, bringing people together across political divides, managing crisis calmly, leaving behind infrastructure reforms or social progress. Think about that as you think about who you believe has been most effective. Now, there have been some historic game changers, right? Some people credit Sir Henry Tucker as one of the founding fathers of modern governance in Bermuda, right? And, some credit him with steering Bermuda toward financial stability and international business growth. There's Dame Lewis Brown Evans, a trailblazer and the first woman opposition leader in the British Commonwealth. She was a fierce advocate, for justice, equality, and labor rights. We've got Dr. E.F. Gordon, known as the father of the labor movement. His push for fair wages and workers' rights shaped modern Bermuda's social fabric. We've got Sir John Swan. He oversaw a major economic expansion in the 1980s, negotiated U.S. tax agreements, and helped shape Bermuda as a global business hub. We've got Dame Jennifer Smith, the first woman to be elected premier. I should say the first woman to actually win an election or lead a party to a political election and then become premier. Yeah. And we have some more modern movers and influencers, right? One can credit Michael Dunkley with and Michael Fay with St. Regis. We may credit Dr. Grant Gibbons with the America's Cup, if that's your thing. We may look at Craig Cannonier as being the person who led the OBA to finally break the PLP stronghold, even though it was short-lived. Maybe David Burt, Bermuda's youngest premier, whose focus on technology, digital economy, and modernization may not play out for many years to come. So who else? I'm going to say Alex Scott. And the reason I say Alex Scott is I think his legacy is larger than most people will probably give credit for or know. Public access to information. Patty? Yeah. I'm pretty sure Premier Scott was behind that. What was the paper on independence? Was he not behind that as well? Premier Alex Scott was very effective. Who else, audience? It's Friday Fun Day, brought to you by our friends at Mailboxes, and this is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. But who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past or present? Who comes to mind for you? We've got Suzanne Ingham says Sir John, Michael Dunkley, Dr. Brown. Let me touch on Dr. Brown for a minute, because Dr. Brown, I believe it was under him, fast ferries. And you see, we just got some more. And though he was not successful with GPS, he was pushing it for a long time. Though he was not successful with gaming, it's funny how he pushed it, and even his own party pushed back against him. Then once the OBA got in power, they moved forward to try to get it done. His legacy may be that he tried to get it done, something that years later, all political parties are pushing for. Another one, Shamari Sky just says, looks like Dr. Ewart Brown, the mega cruise ship port, Free Bermuda College, fast ferry. Yeah. I mean, we may not like it or you may not like it, but Dr. Brown was probably more effective than he will ever get credit for. Who else comes to mind? Who are some of, and it doesn't just have to be premiers, folks. When you think of, who was effective in politics, who comes to mind for you? Who is someone that you said, you know what? They represented the people, start to finish. Another person, Dorian says, thanks to Dr. Brown, we have a second cruise ship berth in dockyard. Rhonda Trott says, Dr. Brown and Sir John, they both fundamentally changed how we did and saw politics. I'd agree. Polly Ritz says, Pat Gordon Pemplin, Dr. David Saul, and Sir John Swan. Okay. Suzanne Ingham says Ottawell Simmons and Dr. Ball. Okay. Who else, audience? Who else? Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past or present? Some of the most effective past or present. Who comes to mind for you? It's important to remember that some members of parliament, senators, and ministers quietly push policy, they draft legislation, and they advocate for communities without the spotlight. There are many who do that. You know, so it's important to highlight those people. You know, Mark Bean may have never been the premier, but I would love to say he's very effective. Because think about it. If there's one person you will love to hear from outside of Sir John, it's Mark Bean. He's effective because of his authenticity and how he wants Bermudians to really focus on doing for self and less government. I think he's one of the most effective because he's made people believe that they can, if you lose a job, go take those skills and do it for yourself. Who else, audience? Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past and present? Rashida Godwin says, Titan Express says, Dame Lewis. Dame Lewis. All right. Who else you got, audience? Who else you got? Dame Lewis. Now, there are some people, I'm going to say Dr. Nalitha Butterfield. She held various ministries. And if she didn't tell me herself when she was minister of certain things, when certain things took place, I would not have known. But I think her impact goes beyond politics because of what she's done in the community in terms of educating people, not all of who were struggling academically. But I think she was very effective. Suzanne Ingham says, yes, Mark Bean, absolutely. He is unique. Omar Dill. I'm going to tell you who else I think is effective. We had him on this week. Dwayne Robinson is one of, in my opinion, he may be only 31, but he's one of the most effective politicians, past or present. And I'll tell you why. Dwayne Robinson engages people where they are. You know, he knows as a young black male, it's frowned upon to be a part of the One Bermuda Alliance. But he still engages people where they are and led the absentee voting bill within the One Bermuda Alliance. That's effective. He's gaining respect from his peers. Effectiveness. Rhonda Trott said, post and pre-civil rights leaders touch us differently. Pre-civil rights too numerous to recall. Absolutely. Absolutely. Angeline Butler says, Julian Hall. Julian Hall. Yeah. Sally Kate Horton says, yep, Alex Scott and John Swan, they raised independence. That's what I said. I think Alex Scott, former Premier Alex Scott, probably has one of the biggest legacies of any premier in my lifetime, simply because of the independence paper and public access to information. Those two things are huge, and I don't think we understand that. The other big thing is the one man, one vote. That was huge under Premier Dame Jennifer Smith. These are big things. So I want people to understand that what we're talking about effective, it's not about popularity or being liked. Alex Scott may have never led the PLP to an election, but he was definitely an effective premier. Charles H. Jeffers II, he says, well, while there may have been others, two that I can remember bringing consciousness to the house are Julian Hall and Sean Crockle. Both of them were unafraid to stand and speak on principle. Okay. Rhonda Trott says, are you aware that this is the second bill almost identical that the OBA have put through? They put through a Moses exact same similar bill during the first time. Are you talking about the absentee voting bill, Rhonda? Just to be clear. Suzanne Ingham says, absolutely, Dwayne Robinson, such a solid young man. Julian Hall, brilliant lawyer. I miss him. Kathy Del Hayward Ming says, Dame Pamela Gordon. Okay. Yeah. Don't disagree, folks. This is Friday Fun Day brought to you by our friends at Mailboxes and your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Again, the question of the morning, we're having some fun with this. Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past and present? Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past and present? Who do you have? Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, past and present? Again, when we're discussing effectiveness, we're talking about, like, if we're thinking about people today, some of the top issues, who's dealing with housing best, or education, or healthcare, or cost of living, right? What have politicians of the past done to shape modern day Bermuda, and what are politicians today doing that you believe will have a lasting impact positively for Bermuda and Bermudians? Who are some people who had some of the best speeches in Parliament? Who do you miss hearing from in Parliament? Who had the best connection to the community? I will say probably one of the most effective politicians in terms of engaging the community, Wayne Furbert, the Honorable Wayne Furbert. I think his influence can't be underestimated in terms of how he has been so successful engaging generations. But who else, audience? Who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians? I do wonder, and I think we've asked Dr. Ewart Brown this year on the election coverage. I'll have to ask Teo. But when he was in power, you all hated him, man. I'm not using the term hated lightly either. But I'm not sure he and let's be honest. I mean, Dr. Brown carried himself like he just, okay, those are just words you have, but I'm going to do the work anyway. But it's just interesting to see so many people years later, and I believe Glenn Jones said this, who was his press secretary. I believe Glenn may have said something like this after Dr. Ewart Brown was leaving office, and said something to the effect that you really won't be able to tell his impact for many years to come. And I think this month or last month marked 15 years since Dr. Brown left the office of the premier. 15 years, and still we're talking about gaming. We haven't fully reached the promised land as it relates to, well, we do have GPS, but he tried that long time, when he was a premier. Yeah, it's an interesting space how we look back and reflect. Rick Olson says, has he really left? Rick, that's like saying, has Michael Dunkley really left? Has Sir John really left? I'll tell you this much. I don't put anything past anyone, but I think Dr. Ewart Brown enjoys his retirement in Martha's Vineyard and Florida way too much to be that involved in Bermuda politics. He's not just pretending. Trust me. I think he enjoys retirement and his wife and family a bit too much. And I'm just going to share my opinion based on how David Burt rules. David doesn't take well to someone like Dr. Ewart Brown telling him what to do. I can guarantee you, and David Burt can challenge me on this, but David Burt is his own leader. Whether that's a good thing or not, but he's not going to take kindly to a past leader trying to tell him what to do. So Has he really left? Yes. Dr. Ewart Brown doesn't even know or have relationships with some ministers that exist in the PLP today. Now, whether he still donates money, that's different. That I donate money to people, I have no control. Charles H. Jeffs II, he says, I would have loved to see how Walton Brown and David Allen would have navigated today's political landscape. Indeed, Walton Brown, another effective one. Walton Brown was not afraid to stand on an island alone if his conscience told him it was the right thing to do. Yeah. Folks, this was Friday Fun Day, brought to you by our friends at Mailboxes, and your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. We're going to show some love to Titan Express and Secure and then bring Teo Dill in. I'm interested to see who Teo deems most effective politician. I'm very interested. And then we've got Dr. Gina Spence Virgil coming up. Very important conversation. Do not go anywhere. In the meantime, give us a love, like, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues.
The Daily Discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Visit TitanEXBDA.com, your leading tour and transport provider specializing in Black History tours throughout the island. And SecureBDA.com for all your property management, waste management, residential, and commercial trucking needs. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is our commitment to you.
Morning, Jay. Morning, fam. And welcome to your TDH News Break, brought to you by the great folks at Peoples, who are still and always the Peoples you have always known, just growing in new ways to help you move through the world ahead in the most productive, healthy, and safe way possible. So, most effective politician in, I guess, personal preference. Is that what you're asking?
Well, I gave background and effectiveness, and I'll just run through it again. So, again, effectiveness isn't, we're not asking for the most popular. We're asking for one. When you think of them, like someone said, the cruise ship terminal, it had a lasting impact. So effectiveness means passing major legislation, bringing people together across the divide, managing crisis calmly, leaving behind infrastructure reforms or social progress. So that's what we mean by effectiveness. And some of the people I said earlier is some people credit Sir Henry Tucker. Being hold on, let me finish, because I know we have some criticism. But
no. I'm saying, like, independent of the criticism, it's under, like, he made the economy that has kept us at the top of the table of national GDP statistics for the past 60 years.
Correct.
So, independent of everything else that he's responsible for, he's probably the most consequential one this century. I would say, or last century.
Yeah, right. and I think that's what we're trying to have a conversation with. It's hard to like politicians. I mean, it really is, Tay. It really is, because I think it is. It is, and that's not
okay. I think that, and I don't know. I know I'm probably out on an island on this. I think a huge part of the reason why we look at politicians the way we do is not just because of what they've done. It's more just the narrative about politicians. And for me, it confuses me in a little bitty place like this, because I would bet, without having to try too hard, every single person that is engaged in this conversation right now, if they wanted to, they could be on the phone with a member of parliament in like 20 minutes, right? Like, without having to try too hard. So you know these people. For real. And yet when we talk about them like they're anything but a child of God. Meanwhile, like, they've been to church with you, playing football with you, and like, you've been cool with them until they occupied a particular role. So politicians are not inherently anything other than, I think, people who believe that they can be helpful. That's it. Now, they could be completely wrong. They could stink at being helpful, but like, that's their motivation in 85-90% of cases, and we don't think of them that way. And I don't understand why we're so uncharitable to
I agree. But no, all that said, who you got? Because I said, I mean, for me, I think the one who goes on the radar the most is Alex Scott.
Yeah.
very effective politician. Like more, and take comparison out of it, but he's probably more effective than people will ever know because he didn't lead the PLP to an election. He didn't necessarily have the personality of a Dr. Ewart Brown or Michael Dunkley.
Or Dame Jennifer.
Or Dame Jennifer, right? Dame Jennifer. And he's literally been ever since he was not premier, he's been quiet. He doesn't really, speak as much. But from Patty to, the Independence paper, like he literally tried to take us to what I guess many thought the initial PLP getting in power would do.
Yeah, no, Premier Scott takes up a lot more meaningful space in our cultural landscape than I believe he gets credit for.
Yeah.
That said, I think Dr. Brown is the most effective, I think, and I got a specific, for lack of a better word, incident. You remember the Uyghur thing?
I was going to mention it earlier. Yes.
Look, because I was in the caucus at the time that happened, right? And it remains one of the most, like, where I realize I'm maybe out of step with like the broader community's perspective on things. Because basically we all got, before it was announced, like just a few hours, called together, said, hey, this thing is happening. And at the time I was like, yeah, no, the Uyghurs, like these fellows been unjustly locked up in Guantanamo Bay for years, declared as enemy combatants without evidence, but they can't go back to China because especially then, and even more especially now, Uyghurs are subject to persecution and torture and all kinds of things. Yeah, why not? That's great. Oh, wow. What a good thing Bermuda is doing. Like 8 hours later, Airport is vaxxed. I'm like, I'm confused. Like I do, but here's the point. But Doc held it together. He got the thing done, and the brothers got resettled and everything. Like their lives, like we literally saved 4 people's lives, and the families that they built as a consequence of having the freedom and stability to live and work and grow here. I just don't understand why people remain to this day so upset with that.
I'll tell you why too. Our reality is not, and this is the hard part to you that I think, and this may hurt feelings, it may offend people, but our thoughts are not shaped by our own intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And I say that because so many of us walk around, we think we're brilliant, we're intelligent. Our thoughts are not shaped by our own intelligence; they're shaped by what we allow into our minds. And if all you're told is this person's corrupt, this person's this, that person's that, that's what you're going to start believing, right? Was it Rupert Murdoch that said, look, the truth is whatever you can make people believe the truth is, right? That was Fox News thing. And I think with Dr. Ewart Brown, he had no friends really in media outside of Insider Communications. And even though social media wasn't what it was then, is if you keep painting people in a bad light and this person is, Dr. Brown really didn't give a, he had this, what was described as arrogance to most people, and you're not supposed to be that way. This is, you're not supposed to be that way. So that would always cloud how people felt about him. Look, to this day, people outright say he's a thief, his this, his that. Forget his medical practice, forget that his wife's a, well-known lawyer. Like, I think those are the things that, and Teo will tell you, folks, Dr. Brown and I, this was us. This is not like I'm sitting there like I was his biggest fan. Like, trust me. Have conversations and be like that. But this is just a matter of being a realist and understanding that even the most intelligent person with the greatest political opinion is not probably sharing things based on their own intelligence. They're sharing it based on what their beliefs are and how it aligns or supports what they do believe, based on what they've been told or taught about something. That's my personal opinion. Is why Dr. Brown doesn't and will not get the respect.
Yeah, that's a hard argument to challenge, to be honest with you. Now, this is not to suggest that Dr. Brown's tenure was without flaw or like legitimate space for critique. However, on balance, I just don't know how you can argue that he wasn't anything other than massively consequential and ultimately just a benefit to
real quickly
our natural life.
I want to give credit to 2 more politicians, Teo.
Yeah.
Len Blakeney, because I believe he was the minister that got us the pool and up at National Sports Center. I think that was extremely important. And you see the work that I remember Couture, her parents, telling me, like, when she was young, there was no pools in Bermuda, right? And so what that has done with, like, to me, that was a big move. And I'm not just saying that because Glenn's our boss or our relationship. I just think that was an important move to give more people opportunities. That someone who became the first Black woman to participate in something in the Olympics, diving, now other Bermudians may have that chance. So I think that's an important move legacy-wise as well.
Did you notice that you said, like, that it doesn't matter, Glenn's our boss?
Oh, I did.
Like you said, like contemporary, like it's the case right now. That's ill. No, because in my head it's the same kind of thing.
Once a boss, always a boss. Yeah.
Oh,
but that's a respect thing. See, folks, that's a respect thing. When you have somebody you love you was your boss, and you do, like, you just that was so unconsciously said. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's ill. I honestly, I do similar things myself.
Real quick question before you get into news, because we got Dr. Gina Spence Virgil coming up, folks. Very important conversation. But Charles said, should we be concerned that we haven't named any current MPs besides David Roberts? Well, I did name David Burt. I said digital, his focus on the digital modernization of our economy and so on. But again, as I kind of may be miscorrectly quoted Glenn Jones about Dr. Brown, we may not really know, and I think Teray said this recently too, the impact of David Burt's leadership. As of today, I don't think that he's going to have a proud legacy, but that could change. And I think we have to give ourselves grace.
Yeah, and I would bet money that in the next 30 years, the view that we currently have of Premier Burt is going to be really significantly different, one way or the other. I think, but we're not going to really understand the work that's taking place under his leadership for about a decade. I'm sorry, about a generation, I should say.
Fair enough. And we've seen it with Dr. Ewart Brown.
Yeah.
To our detriment, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So as far as news goes, we start with a really, really cool story. You might have gotten a WhatsApp forward about this, but it's worth highlighting and sharing with everybody. Shout out, congratulations, and a very, very well done to Kalaj Simons for becoming the 5th young Bermudian ever to represent our island at a sitting of the UK Youth Parliament in Westminster, the House of Commons out there. Kalaj, alongside 300 other youth parliamentarians from all around the world, invited by UK Speaker of the House Lindsay Hoyle, shared their perspective on essential issues, with Kalaj's presentation focusing on community connection and youth engagement.
Mr. Speaker, Bermuda has not published data for the child-related indicators in the last decade. Yet, there's a wealth of services that express commitments to improving these areas for Bermuda's youth. But resource scarcity diminishes the efforts of youth services to further develop, prevents public services from accommodating all, and excludes young people from the discussions and data that concerns them. Mr. Speaker, as a member of various youth organizations, I resonate with these challenges. The craving to be in community is not limited to young people. Other demographics feel it deeply. Therefore, solidifying this connection can provide solutions for social problems we struggle to resolve.
I love that we're seeing Mackenzie Kiltalkett was one I remember, was a gentleman, and now this young lady. You know what, Teo? Where are we finding these young people, these parents? Like, we need these parents to put out some courses on how they're doing this. But I want to say this. I love when young people speak and you don't know their political leanings.
Oh yeah. Honestly, that's pretty typical for young people, I think. I mean, are you familiar with, like, lots of young people, in Bermudian young people especially, that are partisan?
You knew where I leaned when I was younger.
No, I'm sorry. I mean now.
Yeah, I think I know where Teray leans. She's a young person. I know where Taj leans. They're young people. You kind of know where they lean.
I know what their values are, but I have no idea how they're going to vote.
Oh, no. Well, I think in a Bermuda context, you're right. But I mean,
no, but that's what I'm saying.
I mean, ideology, yeah.
Oh, I got you. You're not talking about partisanship. You're talking about philosophy.
Ideology.
Oh, okay.
What is the political philosophy? Yeah.
But and you like that?
I like to be able to hear people talk without knowing what they're because when you can do that, to me, you get what was that old saying Glenn used to say? You catch more
flies with honey.
With honey, right? I like that because you're grabbing more people. Once people know your ideology, they're less likely, if they disagree with your stance, to want to listen to you, which is what I've learned.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I just instinctively prefer people that are available, or I'd rather open to being their full authentic selves in their public life, right? Where they're not like moderating their core values for the sake of anything, really. But that does, again, we disagree.
Yeah.
Now, this is the story that we had to cut from Wednesday. That's a really, really big deal. So please lock in for this. Locally domiciled oil pipeline companies have earned hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue for the illegal Myanmar junta over the past 5 years in what is believed to be a violation of UK sanctions. So this is coming from the Justice for Myanmar, aka JFM Group, who said that Bermudian and Cayman Island authorities are obligated to investigate the junta-controlled Myanmar oil and gas company and their subordinate companies, despite the fact that these companies are reportedly still operating freely here in Bermuda close to 2 years after JFM alerted local authorities about the suspected sanctions violations. This matters because, according to Justice for Myanmar, MOGE, the company I was talking about, it's a single biggest source of foreign revenue for the Myanmar junta, earning the money that they use to buy the fuel and weapons and all this stuff they use to, quote, bankroll an illegal war that's slaughtering children and bombing schools and hospitals with total impunity. Like, this is one of the Gazas before Gaza took up so much space in the global consciousness. So if you haven't heard of it before, here's a short explainer of the conflict that could lead you to want some more investigation into
The February 2021 coup overthrew Myanmar's democratically elected government, ending a short-lived period of imperfect democracy during which Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy won landslide victories in 2015 and 2020. The coup sparked widespread civil resistance, which was met with lethal military repression, sending the country spiralling into full-scale civil war. This has pitted the military against the pro-democracy armed resistance in the form of the People's Defence Force, largely made up of Myanmar's Bamar ethnic majority. The war has left the country in a dire state. Thousands have been killed, millions displaced, with massive humanitarian needs, and a shattered economy.
Wow.
So,
things we don't know if it's not.
We don't know, right? Like, Now, this is all alleged at this point by this advocacy group, Justice for Myanmar. But the UK has taken a hard line on these kinds of companies and their financial activity. So, if it's true, something's got to change, because that's extraordinary. Now, to cheer you up, this is not news exactly, but it's a just beautiful story that I think will brighten your day. It's about the continuity of culture and how it can survive centuries of distance, even though despite the impact of the transatlantic slave trade. The story starts in the 1930s when this young Black American linguist, Lorenzo Turner, was doing research in South Carolina, the closest U.S. state to Bermuda, keep in mind, with the Gullah people. It's a small community of former enslaved folks who've maintained more of their pre-slavery culture and traditions than almost any other across the entire diaspora. He found and recorded this 5-line lullaby sung by a woman named Amelia Dawley, a lullaby that had been passed down by her grandmother through her grandmother and so on. So Miss Dawley didn't know what the words meant or even what the language was, but it helped put the babies in her family to sleep for generations. So why stop? Through Mr. Turner, it was discovered that the song was in a Sierra Leonean dialect called Mende, and it was actually a funeral song rather than a lullaby. That is where the story ended until about 60 years later, when things got really, really interesting.
So here we were, an anthropologist, an ethnomusicologist, and a linguist looking for this song. And in 1990, we got into a car and we went all around Mende country playing the song in each village we came to.
We sat down with the tape recorder and I explained the story to them, and they were listening with complete attention, very, very carefully. And as I began to play the recording, to my astonishment, these women began to sing along.
Bendu Jabati and Mary Moran. Two women from two continents united by the enduring power of an ancient African song.
You know, I first experienced, I went to South Carolina, Charleston in 2017, and I learned a lot because the Gullah people, they what they call them, the Gullah Geechee.
Gullah Geechee. Yeah, I got it.
They're like probably the only group of Black people in the United States that literally keep their ties to the continent, right?
Well, not just the United States. Like this is across the entire diaspora. They do stuff daily there that they would have done 500-600 years ago when they first arrived off them ships.
A gentleman who gave us a tour had this accent where you thought he's not even, no, I was born in the US. Like it was so different. It was almost like from my times visiting the continent, like I was speaking to actual people who live in the continent. It was fascinating. So if you've never been to South Carolina, like low country, that's where you'll find a lot of the Gullah people. And it's quite fascinating too. It's like, I would say it was as impactful as going to, what was that island that Nelson Mandela was on?
Oh, Robben Island.
Robben Island, and doing those tours with those African men. It was that kind of experience.
Like it puts you in history.
Yeah.
Like living in a moment that you like we never think was still accessible to us.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I went there right after the murders had taken place at that Charleston church by that young white boy. And so
the Dylan Roof
yes.
at the Baptist church.
And the Gullah people were so forgiving. No, we don't. They were so forgiving the way they spoke about that, and not forgiving like most people are thinking. It was just like we are all about people, like, and helping people and eating and feeding our communities and so on. That person's not from here because no one from here would have done that. All righty, real quickly before we head out, we did get a couple more. We got Austin Thomas says Dr. Anthony Richardson. Yeah, before my time, but I remember him because I went Sunday school where he went in church. And then Ms. Alan Kate Horton said schools were named after important Bermudians by Randy Horton. Absolutely. Another impactful one. The entire Horton family, actually. I mean, you've got Uncle Bobby coming. No disrespect, my Uncle Bobby is. I mean, that's my second favorite. Not well, Miss Alan Cates. That's my second favorite. But Uncle Bobby, man, that man would come, and my mother had, when I say love for Mr. Horton, it was like, is he our relative or something? Like, well, no, but I got it every time. And when I would see him, I saw him at a wedding in Jamaica. Oh, well, how's your mother? I don't care how's your mother? I was like, yeah. Okay too, but yeah, he's great. Tell you, let's go a days of the year real quickly.
Yeah.
So we have Gumboot Day. I don't know what that is, but it's Love Your Lawyer Day, Teo. Love your lawyer.
Wow. I mean, that's not difficult for me. You know what I'm saying?
You don't have a lawyer?
No, my wife is a lawyer. So it's as easy as pie. When people complain about lawyers, I don't know what they're talking about. They're great.
Well, it's this guy's crazy. Yeah, I've had way too many lawyers in my life, but Love Your Lawyer Day, folks. Hopefully you never need one, but truthfully, we all do need one at some point, whether it's losing a family member, whether it's you have a business, whether it's there's things that can put you in prison. But Tay, you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on the other side. Folks, you don't go anywhere because we've got Dr. Gina Spence coming up immediately following this break. But again, if you have not filled out our survey yet, go on our website, dailyhour.com, and do it. And in the meantime, Tay, you were one of my most effective politicians, all right?
No, I was not effective. Nothing changed. Like I did my best. I really did. But, no, I didn't do it.
You were effective because even as a senator, you would, in your other job, hold your colleagues accountable. That's unheard of, Teo. That was effective to me.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Man.
Yeah. I used to love watching him. I'm mad at him today, and it wasn't me doing anything. It was, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you. Holla at you. Have a great weekend.
All right, man. Take care, bro.
Oh, it's a pleasure in it, folks. We'll be right back. Dr. Gina Spence Virgil coming up. Really looking forward to this convo. I cannot believe over almost 1,200 episodes right? Sorry, almost 1,300 episodes, almost 6 years. And this is her first time as a guest. I'm looking forward to it. Don't go anywhere.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Here with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It, freshness at your doorstep, delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
At HSBC, how we do business in our community is as important to us as what we do for our community.
We are here at Hungary Bay with HSBC today. We're planting over 500 mangroves using 2 different methods. This work is very vital for our mangrove ecosystem and would not be possible without HSBC's generous support.
I am super happy that we have a team here of colleagues helping us replant some of the mangroves. Mangroves are critical for preserving coastal nature, and with recent hurricanes, they have been taken away by waves. By replanting them, we are really helping nature be at its best.
Thank you so much for HSBC for sponsoring the Microforest Project, but by extension, the Hungary Bay Restoration Project.
Thank you to all of the charities, corporate partners, and HSBC volunteers for your commitment to our community.
SCARS stands for Saving Children and Revealing Secrets, and we are a Bermuda nonprofit organization whose mission is to reduce the risk of child sexual abuse and to be an advocate and a voice for children who've been sexually molested, as well as their affected family. New media like the Daily Hour is really important in partnering with organizations like SCARS. It's another platform for us for awareness. There can be no radio silence as it relates to child sexual abuse, and we need as many initiatives as we can get. We need to keep this message alive. In terms of us and the work that we do, live engagement is good because it allows the audience to ask questions, to make comments, even to provide us with encouragement and support. What I love about the live engagement when SCARS is being interviewed by Jamel is just this feeling of safety, this feeling that he gets it. He cares about children. It's a connection.
Alrighty, welcome back to the Big Show. Jamel Hartman here. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations on a regular basis. Folks, please do not forget, if you haven't already, go to our website, fill out the survey. This is your last day to do so. It's on thedailyhour.com, and make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's give a warm TDH welcome to, and I don't usually do this, but I'm going to say it, someone who has been a face of community service in Bermuda for the entirety of my life, and I'm 40-something, all right? I think I'm 44. The entirety of my life. I'm someone who has committed to trying to help people on their worst days. Someone who has made themselves and their family available to give back, not only due to their own experiences, but because of experience of the ones who they love. So let's give a warm TDH welcome to Dr. Gina Spence Virgil. I'm trying to play the music for you. It's not working. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Whew. My apologies. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Good morning, Jamal. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good today, and I'm very honored to be on the show with you and Teo and the team. I want to thank you for, as someone who has been involved in broadcasting, as you know, radio and TV, I always say, like, where's the next generation of, Everest Costas and David Lopes's and Shirley Deals, and you guys have filled that void, as a young group, progressive, very, very challenging sometimes, but I appreciate this platform, and it tells my grandson and other young boys and girls that I can do that you guys are the living testimony. We go by what we see, right? But I want to really, really thank you for answering one of my prayers, and honored to be here today.
Thank you. That really means a lot. Appreciate you very much. And I could have done much better in sharing how you've contributed to Bermuda just now before bringing you on. But for those who don't know, like I said, and I'm not trying to age you, but you've been doing what you do all my life, right? So it's been a long time. But speak to people who may not know. They may just know the name Gina Spence. They may not know who you are or what you've done.
Sure. So I am Dr. Gina Spence Virgil. I'm the Advanced Grief Recovery Specialist for the Gina Spence program, formerly the Gina Spence Productions. Started out as a performing arts company, did the Road Show, people like Bootsy, Patricia Pugson, Judge One Wolf, Dr. Wendy Woods, Nadanja. I mean, just about anybody in the performing arts industry were a part of our original cast, Suzette Harvey and the like. I moved from performing arts into community outreach. We do a back to school event to help children with school uniforms. We do our community outreach Christmas time to help seniors with medicine, much needed medicine, children with toys. And we don't do hampers, we do healthy food items, because after Christmas, you got to eat regular food. And finally, our most, I would say our flagship program is our Champions program and our Healing Hearts programs. And those programs deal specifically with grief and loss. And so my journey into this particular topic or line of work has been at a very deep personal cause. My son-in-law was shot and murdered. I think it's been about 15 years now. And a year to the date, my great nephew was shot and murdered. And I can tell you, prior to that, like my first family that I worked with was Shonday Jones. I was working at Bermuda College at the time that he lost his life, and was out there, helping out the families, going to the hospital, just supporting them. But when I got that call, I can tell you right now, there's nothing that can prepare you. There's nothing that can help you with your ears hearing the fact that, someone's been shot, one of your loved ones. And I was in by myself when I got the call. So I was just screaming my head off. I just lost complete control. I was in shock, right? I was trying to calm me down,
I want to go back real quickly, though, because you said something that I don't want you to separate. I don't want people to separate it. You said you started off as a performing arts company, right? And it transitioned. But I don't think people understand how important that work is still tied to what you do today, because back then, that performance arts was giving young people an opportunity to do something else outside of maybe getting involved in gang activity and so on. So I don't want to minimize the impact of what you did prior to, transitioning to what you do now, right? I think that's important for people to understand, because unfortunately, there nowadays in many other jurisdictions, to be able to get into performing arts or to get into sports programs, you have to have money. That's not what Gina Spence Productions was about, right? And you've transitioned now out of that. And now, as you just said, you've dedicated a lot to helping families who have lost ones due to your loved ones, due to your own experience and what inspired you to do this. But when families, like when you get that call, you just spoke about getting that call, experience such a loss, what are some of the biggest challenges they face, like both emotionally and practically, that people just don't think about? Like, okay, it happens, they lost a loved one to murder. Now in the coming weeks and months, how do they deal with that?
Well, the first thing is the trauma, is the grief and the loss combined. And most people, have never experienced someone being murdered. And I'm not playing on any other type of loss, but murder is specific, right? And what these families have to deal with first from how the work goes out. So, we have WhatsApp, and many times, people are on sending out pictures or people's names or the victim, and it's, and you may be in a position where you haven't even heard about it yet, but your child, your daughter's, name is being put out there. Children have cell phones too. So obviously children have access to this information. And these are the things that I really want our community to be a lot more aware of. When this information comes to you, first and foremost, don't forward it because you don't know if the family members know yet. Secondly, the information that you're forwarding or that you're sharing, make sure it's true, like fact check it, you know what I mean? And thirdly, these families require so much support in that. The first 48 hours are the most critical because one, you're just grappling with the shock and the trauma. And that is why we started the Champions program, because when it happened to us, my grandson was 8 years old. So how do you tell an 8-year-old what has happened versus him finding out in the newspaper or somebody having a conversation on the bus in the morning? So we started this program, the Champions program, based on the fact that there was nothing for children specifically. So I actually got on a plane. I went overseas to this place called Comfort Zone. Comfort Zone is the largest bereavement camp in the world. This is for children from 9/11, Boston bombings. Like, this is where these children went to be cared for and to be given help and support. We went there, met the team. We brought the team to Bermuda, the executive director, the clinicians, and they did a full assessment of Bermuda, death, loss, and children, and the extended community. Once they did the assessment, they wrote a report and showed us where all the gaps were. And so once we started to put our program together, we had the data, we had lots of really good information, and we designed the model to fit Bermuda. And so the way it works now is that if there's a shooting murder and the victim has a biological child, we are called out like first responders. We meet with that family. We've been at the hospital, we've been on the scene, we've been in the people's homes, we've met people in their cars on their way to the incident. So, over the years it has evolved, but we wrap all of our services around the child and the surviving parent. Example. So we would help that parent to tell the child in a therapeutic way, right? And then we would talk to the parent after assessing the child. Should they view the body? Should they not? Should they go to the funeral? Should they not? How, if that child wants to have that final moment, do you do it with the whole family where people are screaming and responding, or do you find a moment with a professional clinician and you, the child, and the clinician go and give that child that time? So all of these things are things that I know people are just not privy to, right? And so the funeral happens, the child is now given tools, and the parent on how to maneuver through this thing. It costs between $5,000 and $10,000 to give your loved one a respectful burial. Most working class people just don't have that type of money like laid up somewhere, right? But they want to give their loved one a respectful burial, right? And so these are the types of things that we help them with. There are some support systems in place to aid people that may not have the funds, right? And then there's the whole legal side of it. So we have gone to court for these families. So for an example, a year after my son-in-law was shot and murdered, there's this court case that pops up. So you're just trying to get your feet into some sort of normalcy. and there's a person sitting in a docket that could possibly have been the one who took your loved one's life. And you have to sit in that courtroom across from that person and go through a grueling court case where many times, as we've seen over 40 different cases, there was no verdict or there was no conviction. So there's a whole nother journey that one may begin, or there have been convictions.
So let's speak about that, because I've seen so many cases recently where people have walked free. When people make these memes, if you want to get off from something, come to Bermuda, whatever. But that aside, you mentioned, your grandson was 8 when that happened. I believe 22. Let's talk about the journey, because I shared a couple weeks on this show, a couple weeks ago or last month, that someone had said that they were dropping their child to school. And as they dropped their child to school, the brother of a murder victim was being dropped off. The son of a murder victim was being dropped off. And with one more, but basically 3 children impacted by murder recently were all being dropped off to school. How do we make sure these young people grow up without revenge in their heart, or without, it could be 2 children whose family members were on opposite sides, right? And they have to be in class together. How do we navigate that?
So the program that we have is designed to do just that. And the reason why I say that, and that's why the assessment and the data and the information is important, right? So for an example, if you live in the States, you could change your identity. You could go to a whole nother country and never come into contact with either the perpetrator's family or him or herself after coming out of prison. In Bermuda, the chances are so much higher that you will see someone connected to that person, or that person once released from prison or never incarcerated, in your travels, right? So what we do as a team is, we don't do cookie cutter services. You know what I mean? So we look at that family, we look at all the dynamics, we look at the child, the capacity of the child, the support systems that exist or don't exist, and we put together a management plan, right? And so that management plan could look like, for child A, and I'm going to give you an example. We have one client whose biological father is doing life for murder, and her stepfather was murdered. So our program or our plan for this young girl cannot look like everybody else's, right? So we had to design a specific plan around her life and her support and her clinical processes to fit her experience. I can tell you right now, that every family that we've come in contact with thus far, and I can only talk about, because we are data driven, right? And I do want to share that data with you because it's important for people to know. So right now we have over 100 children in this island who have lost parents to gun and gang violence, over 100. 96% of our clients have graduated from high school. 88% of our clients have been provided grief and loss support specific to homicide, right? 91 of them have engaged in sport and extracurricular activity, and 86% of them have involved themselves in community again. We're servicing 32 families at this very moment. The data is important because we know it's like somebody being diagnosed with cancer, right? Your cancer, you're stage 1, I'm stage 4. We both have the same type of cancer. Am I going to treat, is the doctor going to give you the same treatment as he's going to give me, Jamal?
No.
Absolutely not, right? It's specific to you and your biological makeup. And that's how our program is designed. And that's why we're seeing these outcomes. And I'm not saying we could save the world, and I'm not saying that we know everything. But what you can take from us is the impact that we are having and the outcomes that we are seeing. But it involves intense, specific clinical care, support. The clients don't age out of our program. So we have a young man that was with us in his teens. He's now in his 30s, right? He's still one of our clients. The needs may change as they get older, right? But the whole point of grief and loss is that grief is basically normal. It's a normal reaction, and it is what happens when you're emotionally impacted. So just like cancer, if the right radiology is given, the right diet, it's a whole thing that goes with it. And not everybody makes it through, but most people will have a better chance. So it's the same way emotionally. If you have the right team, that's why we got there from the beginning.
Yeah.
So we're the ones that tell the children this stuff, right? But we're not just blabbering it off, and we're not just saying it. We have master's degree clinicians and counselors who do this as a profession, right?
Yeah.
Not only do we do that, but we've been through it, right? Yeah. So they get to see through myself and others that you can make it through. Is it going to be hard? Absolutely. Are you going to have moments where you have meltdowns and birth anniversaries and Christmas? And of course, but you're not going through this stuff by yourself. And there are things that we could do leading up to Daddy's birthday. Versus if there's no one there, Daddy's birthday pops up, you have a meltdown, and you're just melting down. There's no support, there's no resources, there's no one to say, listen, scream it out, draw it out, art therapy, whatever it takes for that child or that parent. That is what we do. That's why we call ourselves grief recovery specialists. We do grief.
Yeah. I want to ask, because as I listen to you, and someone from the audience, if you have any questions or comments, send them through. But the kind of work you do can be incredibly heavy. How do you and your team stay grounded and continue to bring hope to others while dealing with such pain and loss? But also, I think this is important to ask along with that. Mark Arthur C. Phillips is asking, in the midst of such sadness, how has your faith helped you?
Well, I'll be very honest, right? I'm a strong faith. I'm a Christian. There's no question about my faith and my belief. But Jesus in therapy is a powerful tool. Okay, we are not made, again, as emotional beings and people that deal with trauma and grief. You have to have balance. There is no way you could work in this arena and not have your support systems. So we have check-ins ourselves, you know what I mean, with our leader, our clinical leader. We have moments where I was with a group of dance ministry team, 22 women, and one of our dancers passed suddenly. Even though I was on the team, I couldn't come and do the workshop and the clinical work and the grief work. I was a griever as well. So I knew I had to step back and grieve, right? It's hard work. I believe you definitely have to be called to do it. But I believe that when you have the right resources, the right people, and the right support system in place, it's just, you should see these types of outcomes. Of course, we turn no one away, no one. We know what it's like when you don't have the resources or the funding or the care. We know that people are either underinsured or uninsured. So if you don't have insurance or your insurance doesn't cover grief, you're going to grieve alone, right? So we make it our business. We have a hardship program if people don't have the funds to pay for it. Our Champions program, there's no cost at all because children are innocent. They're the most vulnerable victims of this heinous crime, and we cannot afford to have our children not get the help and support that they need. The other big thing, Jamal, is trust, right? People are not just going to open up and tell you their business. You have to build trust. There has to be relationship. I found that by being open and transparent with them about what we went through as a family has definitely made it a lot easier. But in some instances, people don't want to talk to you at all. They don't want you to pray for them. They don't want to talk to you. You have to give them that space to grieve. A year later, we'll get the call, Ms. Spence, I'm sorry how I responded at the hospital. I was really upset, or, but I'm ready now. My son is ready now. We really need this help. We really need this support. So we have to navigate as people go through their grief journey, their processes. We already know that there are specific things that are going to happen. One of the things that we don't talk a lot about when we talk about grief is the mental effect. When someone dies, whether it's a prolonged death where someone has a terminal illness and you're just walking side by side with them. You're seeing them, lose weight. You're seeing the hair drop. You're seeing them get sicker and sicker. You actually start to grieve that person before they die, right? Because your brain is wired that way. On the flip side of that, if someone dies suddenly, your brain stops firing in its normal way. There's certain parts of our brain that deal with depression and stress and anxiety. Those signals go up higher. And that's why when people die suddenly, people respond. Even after, you might have been at a funeral where people are screaming, they're trying to jump down into it's because they're dealing with the trauma of the death, and the brain is responding as it should. And that is why I would encourage people, grief is a lot of times dismissed. Oh, it was just a pet. He'll get over it, And so we deal with any type of grief. Our flagship program is Champions, but our Healing Hearts program deals with any form of loss or grief. And right now, I can tell you, there are over 40 different types of losses that you can experience in your lifetime. Divorce, death, loss of job, loss your house, loss of your faith. And these losses impact us. You talk to anybody that's been through a difficult divorce, I'm telling you, it's painful. I've been through it, right? I'm remarried, but it's a hard thing to go through because your children grieve the family that they used to have. Christmas time, football games, camping, right? People grieve their nationality. You have people in Bermuda who come from other countries, and they long to have a Filipino night or an Indian night. The same thing happens with Bermudians. When we moved you live abroad, right? So you go to the UK, you can't even get helmets mayonnaise. It's certain things that you cannot have that you grieve for and you long for. So grief is not just about death, right? It's about numerous things. And we also have counseled and given support to people for some of those other 40 types of losses.
I got another question from the audience. Charles H. Jeffs II says, "Good morning, Dr. Gina. Thank you for what you all do for the community. Is GSP recognized by the government and BPS as an important part of the response team? Are they calling you all? What more is needed?"
So before COVID, pre-COVID, we used to be called out by Pastor Bean and his team. After COVID, those dynamics changed, as we know, because people couldn't just go to the hospital as they would like. Presently, we are in partnership with the Bermuda Police Service, and so we now get that call from the liaison officers, the officers that work with the families. We definitely are always looking for more support. We've met with the Minister of National Security. We haven't had an opportunity to meet the Premier. I would love an opportunity to meet the whole cabinet, because I believe that everybody that is representing a constituency in this island would want to understand how it's impacting the children specifically. So for an example, in the schools, if little Johnny shows up, let's say his father died in a road fatality this weekend, right? And he's coming to your classroom on Monday. What is your plan, right? If you're a football coach and the same child is coming football training on Friday, coach, what is your plan for little Johnny? If you're a church leader or a Sunday school teacher or a Brownie guide and someone has lost a loved one, what is your plan when this child shows up in your space? Because they're grieving, right? We provide a program called Helping Children with Loss, and we train leaders on what's the right words to use? How do you recognize a meltdown? What do you do to comfort them if that happens? This is the type of training that we provide and are providing. We're in the schools, we'll soon be in the prisons. We work with community as well as faith organizations. So right now, I can honestly say that we are launching out into the greater community. It isn't easy because grief is not a sexy subject. People not putting their hand up and saying, okay, let's talk about grief today. So first of all, it's about education, right? Secondly, is about providing people with resources and tools for their workers. So if one of your team members had a situation this weekend, Jamal, and they're coming to work, what's your plan to help them, and how will you help them with their grief, whether it be a divorce or maybe the mortgage was called and they lost the house, or, I mean, there are so many things that happen to us. Most times, grief is under-recognized or unrecognized. But I can tell you one thing for sure: it will show up. It will show up in your life. It will show up in your relationships, and it will show up in ways that you wouldn't be able to identify because you haven't identified it yet. Right? So for an example, let's say I was in primary school, my mom's struggling, and her heels on my socks. So they're taunting me all through primary school. That's my first rock in my knapsack. I'm in middle school now. I'm angry. I am so upset because I'm tired of being teased, right? I meet a friend, and then that's another rock in my knapsack. I go to high school. I fall in love with this really nice guy. He leaves me, or he's, unfaithful to me. Is there somebody else? That's another rock in my knapsack of grief. I'm an adult now, and I just lost my job. They gave me the pink slip. I had to clear my desk. So all those rocks, by the time I get to become an adult, all those grief, all those losses are weighing me down. So I'm never going to be that person that I should be. But when I start to sit down with the professional clinician, and I start to take that first rock out and talk about it and figure out how I want to address it, and the second rock and the third rock, that knapsack becomes a lot lighter. I'm more empowered. I've recognized the grief that has impacted my life, and I can move forward in a much more healthy way. And that's what we're seeing. There was a grief experience that we all experienced a few years ago. It was COVID. Right? Everybody had to be shut down. People grieved going out as they wanted to, doing what they wanted to. They couldn't get married in the way that they wanted to. They grieved the environment that they once had, right? So we've had national grief experiences, and then we've had very deep personal life-changing experiences. So for us, grief is what we do. We don't pretend to do anything else. There are tons of wonderful organizations. So if our child needed a mentor, we call Big Brothers and Big Sisters. If it's something specific to family, we call the Family Center. If it's something specific, like, we use our resources, and that's what makes us so successful, because we don't try to do it all.
Yeah. And speaking about not doing it all, because you've often spoken about the importance of community responsibility. Healing doesn't just belong to families, but all of us. What can Bermuda as a community do to help break this cycle of violence and support those affected? Because there are a lot of people heading to work this morning.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, when I first started my journey, I ran away to the Comfort Zone camp to look at what I could do for my grandson and children. And then I was working with two reformed Crips, two guys who were big in gangs, and, they were reformed. And so I called these guys. I'm like, what did you guys do? How did you stop it? Like, what should I be doing? What should I not be doing? And so the first thing they told me to do was to become informed. So I took it a step further, and I became a grief recovery specialist. I went away to the Grief Recovery Institute, got my certification. So I'm not just meeting with people and just praying for them or giving them a glass of water. I am now empowered, and I know clearly what this family needs to get through this process. So become informed. Secondly, if your neighbor or friend or coworker, has had a loss of any kind, acknowledge it. Let them know, I see you. I understand you guys just went through a divorce. I could not imagine what that's like. Can I take the children for a couple of days, or do you need whatever it is? Like, communicate, like, let people know that you see them after such great loss, right? The other thing that we ask the community to do is to be mindful of people's losses. Don't analyze, don't judge. Oh, you should be over it by now. What are you saying to me right now? I remember at my son-in-law's funeral, somebody came next to my daughter, and they said, he's in a better place. And my daughter looked at this person through her tears, and she said, are you telling me I've been married for 3 months? My husband got shot in a drive-by murder shooting, and he's in a better place. Is that what you're trying to tell me right now? Please get away from me. So, learn the language, understand that some things are very inappropriate to say to people. And I want to speak to the churches as well. I'm a Christian, but I have learned so much about, God's got it, those things, they're not appropriate in certain spaces. And many times it causes more harm You know, so there is a language that you speak to people when they're grieving. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just be present. Just show up and sit. I know a great friend of mine who lost her grandson a few years back, and we met. I got to the house, and Jamel, we sat in silence for at least 20 minutes. There was nothing I could say to her. There was nothing but she knew I was there. You know what I mean? So there are many ways that the community can help, but you've got to become informed. You've got to be educated. You've got to understand what grief is and what it's not. Now, there are times when people need something more intense, right?
Yeah.
So, but refer them, you know, pick up the phone and say, you know, my friend is, you know, they haven't left the house, you know, they're not eating, they're not sleeping. Or people do the opposite. They work. You know, it's either one thing or the other. It's either you slow all the way down or you go fast forward. And in your grief process, neither one of those, that type of process is good for you.
But I want to emphasize, because you know, and especially as anyone who knows you are a very open about your faith. But I think what you also are is very real. And I think what you shared just now, this situation with your daughter, you know, I remember losing my mom and I was overwhelmed, right? Like the amount of and because of that, the next year, a friend of mine lost their parent, and I just sent them a quick note and left them to themselves. However, while I may have wanted to be left alone, that person didn't. They needed support. And so I've learned that, you know, it's important to allow people to grieve how they want. And sometimes we have to make the effort to find out what that looks like for each person, depending on our relationship and so on. So thank you for sharing that, because so often, you know, as someone taught me years ago, I was living in New Jersey and I had just lost my father-in-law at the time. And the person asked me, they said, someone came across, said, hey, condolences. And so this lady says to me, how'd that make you feel? And I said, what? Said that person that just said, sincere condolences to you. And I said, it didn't do anything for me. I guess they were being nice. I said, that's why I'm asking, because I think it sounds good, right? It feels good to say, oh, this person's in a better place, or, you know, it's okay, you'll see him again. Like, that's not what people necessarily want to hear. That may be true, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because we have a tendency to say what we think feels good or sounds good, but that doesn't necessarily communicate or go down as good.
And you're right. It's really cultural, right? So everything you do is based on what you've been taught, right? In Bermuda, you know, we have these cliches and ways that we do things. Every culture has their way of doing things. For an example, we are 100% grievers, Jamel. Everyone will lose something or someone dear to them in their lifetime. So we're 100% grievers. Grief is individual. You're not going to grieve the way I grieve, right? We've had a situation where we had a family, a daughter, son, mother, and father. Father died. Son and father didn't get along at all. Daughter and father, tight as can be. Father died. Son's like, yo, hey, don't say nothing to me. I don't care. Why? Because there was no relationship. His relationship isn't going to just change because his father died, especially if it wasn't a good one. Daughter, distraught. So people's come into the house and they're expecting both children to grieve their father the same way. But, you know, grief is relational. It's based on the relationship that you have with people. And so we have to recognize this, and we have to be okay with the fact that, you know, people have different types of relationships with each. Sometimes you might, I just went through a situation where for the last 3 years, I buried my 3 siblings, right? Now, losing a sibling is something that I had never experienced. And then I experienced them back to back. And this year when my brother passed, I said to my family, like, I don't want to be responsible for planning the funeral. I don't want to sing. I don't want to read the scripture. I don't want to dance at the funeral because I didn't have the capacity. Right. I had taken on the other 2. You know, I didn't get to grieve them, but my body told me, you don't have the capacity to do this one. Do you love your brother any less? No. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do this time. And, you know, being able to tell my family that, making sure they understood that I just wanted to grieve. That's all I wanted to do. And recognizing that that's okay. It's like, it's nothing wrong with you. You're grieving.
Yeah. We've definitely got to have you back because these conversations are important. But before you head out, I love to ask people, I mean, you and your organization are doing a lot for the community. But for those who want to help, whether through volunteering, donations, or just simply showing compassion, what's the best way to get involved and stand with families in need through your program?
So the best way you can get involved is to either volunteer your time. If you have time, just go to our website, gspcharity.com. Sign up, very easy to do so, and one of our team members will contact you. Or you can certainly give. You can give toward any of our programs. We've got quite a few of them that are, we've been needing funding for. Of course, the ongoing help and clinical support is always in need of funds because the hardship program right now is our program that's in highest demand, right? And then thirdly, if you work for corporate Bermuda, we're getting ready for our Christmas event. So our champions have a wish list, we try to, as much as possible, when these kids say, Ms. Vance, would it be possible to get this for Christmas? We try to meet that need. Because we know how difficult Christmas is for people that are grieving, right? And so go to our website, make a donation, become a volunteer. We're doing a volunteer drive right now. We've had great response. And so it's not too late to sign up and register. And if you would like to sponsor our Christmas event, you can do the same. Or if you want to donate, you can do the same. No amount is too big or too small. And we are very grateful for the 30 years plus that this community has seeded into us. We are so thankful.
And we are thankful to you Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for making the time to actually engage. And I always say to my colleagues, if we've learned nothing on an episode of this show, then we have failed to do our job. And I have definitely learned some things from you this morning, excuse me, especially the work that you do. So thank you for sharing that. And my hope is that the community as a whole will appreciate and understand that if it was not this, it would be something else based on the person you are. My hope is that this kind of work is needed less so that you can actually provide in other spaces. And I hope that people really catch on to what I'm saying, because we didn't get into it today, but again, we can always continue that conversation, but start talking about preventative measures so that families are not in this position where they're losing. And as you said earlier, there is no comparison to losing someone to senseless violence, right? There's no comparison to it. So thank you to you, your team, for the work you're doing, and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You as well, and thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, Dr. Gina Spence Virgil, folks, if you've appreciated that conversation, please do us a huge favor. Don't just like, love, follow, and share. Share it with your friends and family on your WhatsApp groups. I think the information that was discussed in that conversation is necessary. I had no idea that, she was worked with the police liaison after something tragic had happened. That's important. And I think it's necessary for us to know that it's what goes into these situations and what's put into the community by people like Dr. Gina Spence and her organization. Folks, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back after this break. We'll wrap it up, and then we'll send you off for the weekend. All right? But I'm going to tell you now so that you don't yell at me after the break. We will not be back after today until next Wednesday. All right? I know.
Being from this little island, like yourself, we knew you needed access to reliable shipping. We set up mailboxes so you can skip all the long waits or held up in customs excuses.
With mailboxes, that won't happen. Get your packages in under 48 hours using our dashboard.
Plus, if you're a planner or headerer, our weekly consolidation service might be for you. We hold your packages in Delaware and ship them together to save you big time on shipping fees.
And with our warehouse being in Delaware, that means 0% sales tax. Pretty cool, right guys?
For over 70 years, Bermuda Pest Control has been protecting homes and businesses island-wide. We offer a full suite of services, including rodent control, termite fumigation, and general insect control and maintenance. Our team of experts will quickly and efficiently eliminate any pest problem you may have. With Bermuda Pest Control, you can enjoy a pest-free home in no time. We're committed to providing fast, reliable, and solution-driven services for our customers. It's what we've been doing since 1952. Call Bermuda Pest Control today and say goodbye to pests for good.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Noah's Ark Feed and Supply has everything you need. From top quality foods to toys and supplies, we've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC, Bermuda Business starts here.
Alrighty, welcome back. Thanks again to Dr. Gina Spence-Virgil for dropping by this morning, having that important conversation with us. Folks, again, if you appreciated the conversation, whatever platform you're streaming on, give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring we can have these conversations with you on a regular basis and pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5 with these most important community conversations. It is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, audiences, the things you should know. And this is probably something I had no idea because I did not watch the show. Audience, what does Homer Simpson do for a living? Nobody knows what Homer Simpson does for a living? Well, Dr. Anthony Richardson got it absolutely right. He is a safety inspector at a nuclear power plant. Yep, nuclear power plant. That is what he is. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, folks, let's wrap it up so I can let you all go on your way. Regarding the conversation this morning about who are some of Bermuda's most effective politicians, and this is based on your own opinion and perspective. We've had quite a few. We've had a lot. And while we may not agree with their politics, we cannot say that they have not had an impact on how we live daily, whether that's been good or bad, but effective, simply moving pieces of legislation that improve our lives or our policies and standing up and fighting. There are so many who have done things, but again, we're wired not to look at politicians in that way. As far as the conversation with Dr. Gina Spence-Virgil, I appreciate, I did not know that her organization was responsible for doing so much. And I'm grateful that organizations like this exist. However, as I just said, I would love to see a day where organizations like this are not needed. That should be our goal. That's how I feel about most charities, right? We need to move toward a place where they're not needed. Like there's no senseless violence and we don't have to deal with that kind of grief. However, as long as the world we live in, this stuff does happen and it does exist, then I'm grateful that people are, committing to helping others who have to deal with such loss in life. All right, daily inspiration. I'll pretty much leave you with this, audience. If you can, just do it. And if you can't, Don't stop someone else from trying. Do with that what you will. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy, and a big shout out to HSBC Bermuda for ensuring that we can do this with you on a regular basis and pump through the radio airwaves on Hot 107.5. As always, we appreciate you. We love you. We thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you after the holiday next Wednesday. I'm Jamel Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great long weekend from us. See ya. We are is out. Peace.